Despite being a perfect 4-0 to start the season, the Philadelphia Eagles are far from perfect. They were up 24-3 at one point in the first half and then later held a 31-13 lead late in the third, but had to do everything they could to stop yet another Baker Mayfield comeback victory from becoming a reality. In the first half, it was total dominance by Philly. The special teams unit picked up right where they left off in week 3, this time blocking a Buccaneers punt and taking it back all the way for the game's opening score. Their defense was able to keep Baker Mayfield and the Bucs offense in check, holding them to just 6 points in the first half. The play calling in the first half I thought was excellent. Jalen handled the blitz pretty well, and the offense was in rhythm. And their offense was humming as they got a little bit creative at times around the goal line, with a few wrinkles and exotic formations yielding into 2 Dallas Goedert touchdown passes via shovel pass from Jalen Hurts. Jalen was in command, especially in the first half, as he finished 15 for 16 for 130 yards, but in the second half was completely different as the Eagles offense completely dried up. Hurts didn't complete a single pass in the second half, going 0 for 8. And I don't think I've ever seen a stark contrast between two halves like I seen in this game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was truly confused on what Kevin Patullo was doing with this offense. There's just too much talent for Saquon Barkley to be struggling and getting on track this season like we've seen. There's too much talent to not find ways to get AJ Brown the ball on a consistent basis, other than just drawing up a simple curl route or a slant pattern. There's too much talent on this offense to be restricted to just 20 yards in total offense in the second half, with your lone touchdown coming off of a short field thanks to the defense. I will give Kevin Patullo some credit, as in the first half, like I said, he was pretty creative around the goal line with those shovel passes to Dallas Goedert, and he even dialed up a fake tush push in the second half, as that seemed to get Saquon enough space to score to set up a 31-13 lead. One thing to note that I think may be attributing to the offensive struggles is that the offensive line isn't really playing well. After a month into the season, the offensive line has been dealing with injuries across the board. Lane Johnson exited week 4 with a shoulder injury, and that's on the heels of him exiting the previous week with a neck injury. A healthy Lane Johnson is the best right tackle in the league, and when he's banged up, he's of course still very effective, but is a different version of what we see when healthy. Landon Dickerson started off the season banged up with a sprained MCL and meniscus, needing him to get his knee cleaned out at the beginning of training camp. And since returning to the lineup, he's been dealing with a back injury. Cam Jurgens had off-season back surgery just days after the Super Bowl and is still looking like he's on the mend from that injury. Tyler Steen picked up an injury to his lower leg in week 4 and was thankfully able to return, but still looked fairly hobbled. Thankfully for the Eagles, Jordan Mailata seems to be the lone Eagle offensive lineman that is actually healthy so far this season, and he's been playing at an all-pro level. But you can definitely say that the rest of the bunch is underperforming, and that's leading to several ripple effects in terms of pass protection and run blocking, leading to the offense struggling to start out 2025. After 4 games this season, Saquon Barkley has been restricted to just 237 yards on 3.1 yards a carry. While I do expect him to hit some home runs eventually at some point this season, the offensive line is going to need to create those running lanes that we saw last season. The lack of push in the second half messed up the timing of these routes, and the passing game suffered as a result. The Eagles' identity is predicating to being one of the best teams in the trenches, and while this is something we've seen in the past few seasons, the 2025 version is nowhere near elite. As the offense tries to get its shit together, once again it appears that the defense is carrying this team. Against one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league, Fangio's defense was excellent in the first half, as like I said earlier, they held the Bucs offense to just 6 points. The second half, they got a little leaky, allowing 2 long touchdowns to Bucky Irving and later Emeka Egbuka, but they did manage to force 2 huge turnovers, including a fumble which gave a struggling offense some life in a short field to build a 31-13 lead in the third quarter. Jahad Campbell has once again proved to be one of the biggest steals in the 2025 draft, as he came up with his first career interception in the red zone, which ended a promising Buccaneers drive. While the D-line didn't get home often, only sacking Mayfield twice, they did generate a ton of pressure against a banged up Tampa Bay offensive line. In fact, Baker faced pressure on 41% of his dropbacks. I gotta say that the Eagles secondary so far in 2025 has been doing its part. Adoree Jackson was inactive for the first time this year, and this gave Keely Ringo an opportunity to start in place of him. He did a pretty good job as he only allowed 1 catch for less than 10 yards. But the true star of this secondary has gotta be Quinion Mitchell. Obviously, we would love to see him go up against Mike Evans, but he missed this game due to a hamstring injury. But in the meantime, Quinion Mitchell took away an entire half of the field. In just his second season, he's become one of the best lockdown corners in the league. Against the Bucs, he was targeted 9 times, giving up only 2 catches for 6 yards, and broke up 5 passes, which was a career high. And this effort led to him winning Defensive Player of the Week in the NFC. He went up against Chris Godwin at times, but most of the time it was against the rookie Emeka Egbuka, and I thought he did give Egbuka a good run for his money, as there was a couple times where Baker was trying to go to Egbuka in the end zone, but Quinion was right there stride for stride and was able to break up what could have been a touchdown. It's been a long time since the Eagles have had an elite secondary, but after some upgrades within the last 2 seasons, this is one of the best in the league.